What's up, guys? Welcome to Newswave. Hope you have a good Thursday today. Now, there's a lot of stuff to kind of talk about today. First, I do want to make mention of our newly opened Patreon. So if you want to shoot on over there, you can take a look. We are posting any of our video podcasts that we do, whether it's Spawncast or the new podcast that Evan and I together are going to do. All of it video is going to be posted there. If you aren't able to donate to Patreon or anything, like I said, just you guys watching and sharing is great too. And snippets of those podcasts are put up on this channel, and the full audio version is also posted on SoundCloud and iTunes. You can just search Spawncast, they'll pop right up. And with that, guys, let's get started. So first thing we're going to talk about today is Phantom Dust, actually, which is interesting because I know you might be thinking that game is from 2004. I'm not really sure how it's relevant today. Well, if you have been not really following this whole thing, it's been very weird. So originally, Microsoft was remastering it or recreating it completely from, I guess, scratch using the original game's ideas, and that got scrapped. As most of us remember, it was canceled. Well, Microsoft decided, instead of remastering the whole thing, because we even had beta footage, so it was on its way. Instead of all of that, they decided, well, let's do a re-release of it and kind of upscale it to 1080p and everything, make it 60 frames, and we'll release it on the Xbox One and the soon-to-be-released Scorpio. And we finally saw footage of that today from Polygon. And it was a full 19 minutes of gameplay, and it looked like how I remember when I used to play it, which I played it actually a fair amount on the original Xbox back in 2004, and this was actually leading up to the release of the 360. It was out kind of the year before, and I do remember playing Phantom Dust a good bit. It's still kind of a cult classic. It's one of the I don't want to say pricey games on the Xbox, but it's one of the more sought after games compared to the rest of the original Xbox's library, that is. And it's a fun game. I think a lot of people who missed out on it will at least have the chance to play it. But keep in mind, this and like two other games are Microsoft's exclusives right now, and that is kind of troubling. In fact, their big releases right now that are coming up, I know, are State of Decay 2, Sea of Thieves, Crackdown 3, which Crackdown 3 and Sea of Thieves are probably the two big ones that they have, and then Phantom Dust. I said a re-release, not even a remaster, a re-release from 2004. So if any of the big three companies, Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, have anything to prove at E3, it's Microsoft. Like, it's actually really weird to me that just because Microsoft is showing up to E3 with a system, a lot of people seem to be giving them a pass on the first party support, and it's very, very weird. All we're hearing is a lot of talking right now. Phil Spencer has come out and said, hey, we're putting a lot of money right now into trying to get first party support there. We're trying to create new experiences for people, and I assume at E3 there will be something announced, right? I mean, we have to have something, when I say something, I mean something other than Halo and Forza, because let's be realistic here. Those IPs, while good, aren't new, technically. I mean, they're intellectual properties we expect to see, right? I'm looking for something different. When I saw Scalebound, I was sold. I was like, this is going to be great. I'm going to play a Microsoft first-party game, and it looks awesome. And then they cancel it, and we haven't really had anything left to replace it. And this is really the first look at a game that Microsoft is claiming to be their first-party lineup. Of course, Crackdown 3 has not really been shown much at all. And at this point, Sea of Thieves feels like it's more of a PC game than an Xbox game. The good news for Microsoft fans is they have to show up with something game-wise, right? I don't think they're going to sit on their podium and their stage and show off third-party games, right? They wouldn't do that. They can't just have the Scorpio running like Call of Duty and Destiny 2 and stuff at 4K. They have to show up with something that makes their console different from the PS4, because the PS4 has games that make it different from the Xbox. The Switch has games that make it different from the Xbox. The Xbox doesn't really have any games that make it different in the marketplace other than the ones I just said, and those ones really don't make a massive impact. We saw what happened with Halo Wars 2. Didn't make a big impact. I mean, Dead Rising 4, not a big impact. It's a weird position for Microsoft. What's really weird to me is they have the money to go out and buy these games, at least get people in to make games for them, but they seem to be super hardware focused right now and just trying to make the third parties happy rather than trying to make gamers who have an Xbox, who have invested in this unit, happy with a reason to make it to play something different than what's on the PlayStation. I don't know, it's gonna be a really weird E3 for Microsoft. I hope they show up with a bunch of really cool ideas and games, because right now, man, their first party lineup, which you're gonna see right here, yeah, that's their first party lineup right now going through 2017. Not a lot there. And real quick, let me take the chance while we're talking about Scorpio to jump over another piece of news that really, this kind of surprised me. Well, I shouldn't even say surprised. It's weird. So we all know there are obviously big media outlets that report on games. There's like Polygon, Kotaku, IGN, and Polygon decided to put out this really weird article that people seem to jump on a little more than I thought they would and agree with it. And then there are people who disagreed. But basically, the person who wrote this article at Polygon says they should have that LCD screen on the Xbox One so we know how many frames per second our games are running. Yeah, I'm gonna let that sink in for 1 second. They want to know exactly what their frame rate is when they're playing a game. I'm not really sure why you want that LCD screen, because it would only cost more money to make that and put that on there, and it would serve little to no purpose when you're actually playing the game. This tells me you would be more interested in watching a frame counter than actually enjoying a game. And that just, to me, that sounds crazy, but with the amount of people that actually agreed with it and said, man, that's a great idea, it's starting to concern me about gamers now. I don't know if we're getting to a point where resolution and visuals and even frame rate trump the game itself. I mean, that sounds crazy, right? But here we are heading into 4K, and people are complaining about things not being high enough resolution or frame rates not being 60 and they're 30 instead, and visuals in general mattering more than the game being fun. And it's weird. And when I saw this article, I thought, that kind of defines and kind of paints a picture of how I am seeing the gaming industry kind of evolve here. It seems like we are more about visuals and resolution than we are about actually making the games interesting and compelling. And really, as much as I've been harping on Microsoft, I mean, this is what's happening with Microsoft right now. They're not really going to be giving us, at least right now, anything different. And it's weird. It's really weird. They're more interested in conquering 4K than conquering the gamers market in general. Either way, dumb article by Polygon. You want a screen that will count frames, and you want to spend extra money because that screen's not going to be free. And if the system came out and it was $450 with that LCD screen, wouldn't you want them to remove the LCD screen and the circuitry to get under $400? Or do you want to spend that extra $50 so you know if you're going at 60 frames or if you accidentally drop down to 58 out of nowhere? Because based on the gamers now, they might actually make a big deal out of that. But yeah, just enjoy games for what they are, guys. Stop counting frame rates as much. Stop yelling at resolution, whether it's checkerboard or actual 4K or 2160. Just enjoy the games, guys, because they're meant to be fun. And that's about it. And we did get new numbers from Japan for this past week of April 24th to April 30th, which does encompass that Mario Kart 8 weekend launch. And it did pretty well. And the Switches that they had there that were selling did better than before as well. So Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold 280,000 units on the Switch. Again, this is really only for, what, 3 days, 28th, 29th, 30th? Because, of course, this goes right to the end of April to the beginning of May at this point. So we'll follow up with those numbers for the week after because, of course, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I'm sure, kept selling. But from there, the Nintendo Switch sold 74,217 units in Japan, which is very big, considering the week prior it sold 45,000 units. So yes, Nintendo did provide more units, and the system continues to sell. I assume that is the roof because they're just hard to find. It keeps selling out. Mario Kart was going to do nothing but sell them out, but it does look like Nintendo provided an extra 30,000 units, and this is just in Japan, which tells me that probably in the rest of the world they provided more as well. So I'll be really curious to see what we ended up with in the United States. It's very clear that Nintendo really offered up quite a bit of extra product here, and it looks like they're pumping it out at a rate as much as possible. I mean, it's hard to keep up with demand because at this point in Japan, it looks like they're at 759,188 units, and that's quite a bit in the first, like I said, 2 months of it being on the market in one region. And if you really take that into account, the PS4 of this same week sold 24,756 units. So the Switch sold almost 50,000 more units than the PS4 did in that same time period. And while Mario Kart is, of course, popular, I'm going to be very interested to see what happens when a new IP like ARMS comes out. See how many Switches follow that game. See how many of those games fly off the shelves. Because it's one thing to release a game that everyone's familiar with and everyone knows, because while Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is good, it is basically the same game we had on the Wii U with obvious improvements. It'll be interesting to see this new IP like ARMS, which is really next up. Let's see how well that one does, because that is going to be interesting since this is an IP that Nintendo is taking a chance on to create from the ground up. And we got our first look at Fire Emblem Echoes and the DLC that's going to accompany it. Now, this is an interesting topic, mostly because the DLC cumulative with the season pass they're going to be selling. Costs more than the game does at retail. So we of course know that the game itself is $40, like most 3DS games when they first launched, they're $40. The DLC is $45. It's supposed to include 22 pieces of content. You can also buy them in separate DLC packs, so there's going to be 5 different DLC packs with different content, so you can go through, kind of pick out which ones you want technically. But if you want all of them at a discounted price, it's $45. And yes, that's right, that $45 is technically discounted because if you buy them all separately, just over time, maybe like 1 week you want to buy it, then you wait till like the next month to buy the following one, just save a little extra money since you are maybe on a budget, it will end up adding up to about $52 total. So that is kind of pricey. Now, don't get me wrong, so many companies are doing this. For Honor, I mean, we went over that, and that game was a small fortune to unlock everything. So this is not new. It's just weird, right? When DLC or downloadable content ends up eclipsing the price of the original game, that is supposed to be the main focus, right? Zelda is fine with the DLC because it's $20, so it's 33% of the main game's price, and it does add content that is, you know, comparable to the amount of money you're spending, whereas while this has some stuff to it, it looks to be like extra maps and bits of story for like the backstory, so it's not needed. This is not stuff that is mandatory, but it's still odd. I'm very curious to see what your guys' opinion is on this, because DLC seems to be getting out of control for every company. It's Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo all seem to be having this crazy philosophy on DLC where it needs to be very expensive, or at least have so many pieces of DLC that it ends up costing more to get the DLC than the game itself. Let me know what you guys think down below, because this is a very interesting topic, and it's very controversial. Even on that the YouTube videos page down in the comments, people are just arguing back and forth on this. No one can seem to get a good grasp on if this is good for the industry or if it's bad. Either way, the DLC itself is coming to the game starting May 19th, so starting that day, you can kind of start to leaf through it, scroll through, and see which DLC packs you want that are upcoming, and see which ones you're going to get. The season pass you can buy straight up, though, on May 19th for $44.99. That'll encompass all the DLC that comes out for that game. And oh boy, if you're a fan of Far Cry 3, you may be in luck, because it looks like Ubisoft may be posting some cryptic messages alluding to some sort of Far Cry 3 related game coming out soon. And you'll see here on their Facebook page, they posted this picture, and what it is it's a picture of the rock island that was the setting for Far Cry 3, and it was one of their favorite villains in the entire series, Vaz, as being like the main antagonist there. And on that page, they had a caption that says, "An island we never truly left." And then on the Instagram page, it adds, "Does that remind you of something?" So I'm not really sure what to make of this. A lot of people are saying maybe it's a remake of Far Cry 3. I would not expect that to happen. That doesn't sound like a good idea. A remaster of a game that really didn't come out super long ago wouldn't make a lot of sense. Really, I mean, realistically, if they remastered it and put it on consoles, that would not be a big, that would not be warrant for this kind of announcement. I feel like they should do something with the Far Cry 3 story and the island. Maybe it can be for the next Far Cry. Far Cry 5 can go back to this island and try to recreate an entirely new story, rather than bring the game out in like 4K at 60 frames, because really you could kind of start already doing that on PC now anyway, so it wouldn't really be that interesting or that big of a deal if they did that. I hope this is, because Far Cry 3 was really good, I hope this is a game that's coming out that is just in some way related to that island and the story, and they give us a whole new game. That's it for Newswave today, guys. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you want to support the channel, head on over to Patreon, check that out as well. Let me know what you guys think about anything we talked about here today, whether it's the frame per second counter on the front of that Scorpio, which is interesting, maybe Microsoft's lineup, which could use some work. Hopefully they are ready for E3 with some big first-party announcements, at least I hope so. Otherwise, there might not be much to play on the Scorpio other than third-party games, in which case you might as well build a computer. And also let me know what you guys think about Phantom Dust. I don't know if you played it back then. I did. It was fun. Will the remake or re-release be worth it? I don't know. It depends on the price. 20 bucks? Sure, why not? That's it for now, guys. I will see you next time.